EDL 850 case study focusing upon Standard 5. Internet use violations, threats over the World Wide Web by Mark Sambo. Category 1, what do we know? We know that Roosevelt High School is an affluent area of a larger city. Students come from professional families with secure financial means, such as doctors, lawyers, or partners in some type of firm or agency. We know that Dr. Stephen Forbes is the principal. He's been the principal for 9 years. He has an impressive resume, which includes a recent recognition of being the state's Principal of the Year. He's a leader who is respected by not only parents but also staff and students. He strives to continue maintaining the reputation of Roosevelt High School that has been established as one of the premier schools in the state. Miss Walker was a beginning teacher when hired by Dr. Forbes. Before taking the job, Miss Walker had already completed an impressive amount of study and earning both a master's degree and on top of that another year of postgraduate work. Due to both her subject matter and her instructional delivery, Miss Walker's classroom can be above the average of the stress environment in most classes. Because of this, Dr. Forbes has received numerous calls from parents concerned with their son or daughter who have lower than normal grades. Ms. Walker received an unidentified email that urged her to view a certain website. This website contained personal and professional comments about her. In some instances, profanity was used to describe certain dislikes about Ms. Walker. The final comment stated, "Who wants Ms. Walker to disappear?" Ms. Walker feels threatened by these comments. She feels threatened enough to stay at her parents' the night before school, even though they live 3 hours away. Category 1 continued. What do we need to know about the situation? What class or classes does Ms. Walker teach? Is the class a requirement for graduation or an elective? What was the IP address from which the site was created? Does this IP address link the creation of the site to a personal or school computer? What IP address was this site created from? Could this be a parent who started the situation or started the site, or a student? Probably depends upon the IP address to address that situation even further. How descriptive or threatening are any of the comments or messages posted? What type of legal action can be taken in light of the student or parent who created the site? Would this be considered libel or slander towards Ms. Walker? What is the general classroom environment like for Ms. Walker? Is she a quality teacher who simply places high expectations on students who have never been pushed to that extent before? Or is she a teacher who is unable to relate her knowledge in an effective instructional manner? Category 1 continued. What is the problem? The problem is Ms. Walker's inability to form meaningful relationships with the majority of her students while at the same time creating a positive educational environment conducive to learning. Student frustrations with Ms. Walker as a teacher have escalated to public posts, with one going to the extent of saying, wanting her to disappear. These comments have not only horrified Ms. Walker from a professional standpoint, but have also been viewed as a physical threat in her eyes. Category 2, proposed plan of action with appropriate strategies for implementation. Gather evidence and inform necessary staff and individuals of the situation and process. That's specifically referring to the superintendent, maybe an assistant principal, and the technology coordinator. Print and copy the comments and website from the information and details gathered from Ms. Walker. Contact the superintendent of schools and discuss the situation, legal ramifications, and appropriate plan of action for her, the teacher, students, and parents. Communicate a meeting time before school with Ms. Walker to explain what has been recently discussed with the superintendent's office and technology department. Explain any new insight and what this process could look like pending student-parent cooperation, while also addressing efforts to prevent such occurrences from ever happening again. Category 2 continued. Proposed plan of action with appropriate strategies for implementation. Finding the origination of the website. Immediately following my discussion with the superintendent of schools, I would then contact district technology coordinator while the site is still up. I would discuss the necessary steps with this individual to find out who sent the email and who created the website by first finding where the IP address came from. I would then contact the owners of the licensed IP address or computer used to create the site and discuss the situation and the seriousness of it. Category 2, propose plan of action with appropriate strategies for implementation. Inform Ms. Walker of the current situation and address faculty and staff of our computer use policy within the district. Inform staff of possible occurrences of misuses of technology and ask them to revisit building and district policy for personal and school property. This would be done both for their own information and as well as to address to kids or students. Bring any individual students in relationship to the concrete evidence gathered from that of the district technology coordinator and the possible IP address to discuss the situation. Contact parents to discuss the information gathered and the seriousness of the issue in relationship to their children. Should information be related to more parental involvement in the creation of the site, evidence would then be sent to the local police department. Inform Ms. Walker within the morning meeting of the current situation and the added measures you will be taking to make sure she feels as safe as possible or as safe and as comfortable as anyone else within the building while keeping the matter confidential. Category 3, resolve issues based on promoting the success of all students. This was done by creating an environment that is safe and effective, is a safe and effective learning environment for not only teachers but also students. This was done by incorporating specific school reprimand based on our technology conduct and misuse policy while still addressing possible legal reprimand for the threat or harm against the teacher. I understand the school reprimand might be trumped by legal issues residing outside the school walls with such issues as we're encountering with this internet violation. This was also done by encouraging teacher development and growth by review of policy while at the same time supporting Ms. Walker through appropriate measures to feel safe and as comfortable inside and outside the school building. What were you thinking, feeling, and valuing? What was I thinking? I was thinking, is Ms. Walker a quality teacher, quality educator, and what classes is she teaching? Are we matching up her knowledge with the appropriate classroom environment? Is a situation where a group of students within this class responds poorly to high expectations? You can only imagine that some of these students who come from wealth or prosperous financial means could be a little bit spoiled. Can these students not handle being pushed academically? And is this a response to that inability or embarrassment? Could this be the actions of a parent and not the immaturity of a student? Category 4 continued. What were you thinking, feeling, and valuing? What was I feeling? I felt sorry and disappointed for Miss Walker. I felt that supporting Miss Walker both professionally and personally should be a top priority right now in the process. I was disappointed with the action of a few students and possibly worse, a parent. I was eagerly anticipating some ownership to the current website and email so consequences could ensue both quickly and fairly. Category 4 continued. What were you thinking, feeling, and valuing? What I was valuing is pretty simple. I value our school to be viewed as a safe and educational environment for not only students but also faculty and staff members. I value the professionalism demonstrated by Ms. Walker. I value the trust and respect Ms. Walker has in me of addressing this issue both swiftly and effectively. Category 4 continued. Identifying issues that are unresolved or open to further investigation. Who was it? Was the site created by a student or parent? Was it a school computer or personal computer based on the information gathered from the computer's IP address? Why did the situation occur? Is there a building or district technology policy in place? And if so, do any changes need to be made in light of the current situation? What can we do as a building or district in future instances to prevent these circumstances and protect students and staff from such types of threats? How has Ms. Walker coped with the entire situation in the process? Category 5, Component 1. How did I, as a building level administrator, demonstrate a sense of integrity and ethical behavior that serves as a model for all members of the school and community? I did this by immediately contacting administrative personnel, the superintendent, the district technology coordinator, and any other staff members, such as assistant principals, that need to be aware of the situation, and made them aware of the situation and steps that would be taken. I investigated the issue further, collecting and maintaining evidence. I followed district and building policy in relationship to technology use and threats against a student or staff member. Category 5 continued. Component 2, how did I, as a building level administrator, treat people fairly, equitably, and with dignity and respect? I did this by supporting Ms. Walker both during and after the situation with added measures of safety and instructional and professional encouragement. I kept the incident confidential to protect the interest and well-being of students, faculty, parents, and especially Ms. Walker. As a professional and building leader, I didn't jump to any conclusions about the situation based on hearsay in relationship to the students' behavior or comments within Ms. Walker's class. Category 5 continued. Component 3, how did I, as a building level administrator, demonstrate a personal and professional code of ethics that inspires others to higher levels of performance? I modeled appropriate behavior and professionalism by following building policy in reference to technology use and disciplinary action for those misuses. Decisions were made based on creating and maintaining a climate that was not only safe from threats, but also conducive to educational growth for not only students, but also staff. Using the situation as a time to reevaluate our building and district policy in relationship to technology use and threats against students and staff. Professional and personal reflection of a situation is key for future prevention strategies for these types of situations.